Hello, everybody. My name is Russell Katz. I'm the Investor Relations Account Manager with the Capital Network. Today is a very exciting announcement. Optiscan, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we're very excited to update the market and investors on what has been an extreme period of success, I think is the best way to describe it. So the way that this will work is Camille is going to present. And then afterwards, there will be time for questions. We did receive a few beforehand, and we have actually addressed some in the presentation, and some we will I will mention before we go into the Q&A. But if you want to ask a question, please notice that there's a Q&A form at the bottom of your Zoom. Please type it in there. We will not be taking voice questions during this presentation, only typed questions. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Camille, who's going to tell you all about it.
Thanks, Russell, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to all listeners, shareholders, investors, analysts, fund managers, all interested in the update here for Optiscan. So we'll just start with our traditional disclaimer. And before I start, I'd like to commence with an acknowledgement of the Whadjuk people where I'm presenting from today in sunny Perth, of the Noongar Nation, and paying my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So as Russell said, this is an exciting time for Optiscan, and I'll take the time today to update you on our recent activities. I'll also provide some context as to our activities and progress to date over the last couple of years, and setting the scene as to where we're heading in the next couple of years and then beyond. And of course, we'll be talking about the most recent announcement that we released earlier in the week in relation to the know-how agreement signed with the Mayo Clinic. So for those who are not aware of what Optiscan is and what it has and what it has been doing, this is a summary slide. We're listed on the ASX, listed in 97, headquartered in Melbourne, and as of yesterday, a market cap of 100 million. Our technology is patent protected, which is very important in this day and age, especially with the type of technology that we'll be discussing today. And more importantly, proven over many, many years. So with that legacy and that heritage comes that proven technology. We have validated products currently on the market, but also previously been placed on the market, and that also bodes well for our future and our ability to launch clinical products onto the market. Having said that, we run a tight, agile team headquartered in Melbourne, but now expanding into the US. We undertake all of our R&D in our headquarters in Melbourne, and we are ISO certified to do that. More recently, you would have kept up to date that we've launched a commercial hub in Minnesota. We've set up office in Rochester, and that was in anticipation of us moving ahead with our clinical, regulatory, and further commercial activities in the US. So what does Optiscan have under the hood? Well, really, it's very simple. It's a slide-free, biopsy-free imaging technology, second to none, that really will revolutionize the way that surgery will be undertaken, the way that pathology is basically undertaken currently, which is still an analog system relying on glass slides. We've developed a technology that will move us into the digital age, and will create significant efficiencies in the health system, decrease recurrence rates, decrease the repeat surgeries that many patients undertake, and provide clinicians, surgeons, pathologists with immediate information for them to make great decisions while the patient is in the operating theatre. We talk about the proven and validated technology. There's more than 150 publications now talking about our technology, both clinical and non-clinical in the life sciences space, and also in the clinical research space. I don't think there's a tissue or anatomical structure that we haven't imaged in one of these systems. We're always asked to image a new anatomy and systems, and we're always happy to work with partners to do that. Importantly, in our 30th year since launching Optiscan, this is our 30th year anniversary, it's important to know that there's no discussion in relation to the ability of the technology to do what we state it does. It's been proven multiple times over by independent parties. Importantly, we're moving into the clinical era of applying our technology in a wider, larger, relevant markets and market spaces. Currently, the focus areas for the company are in breast, GI, and head and neck imaging. That accounts roughly for about 30% of the cancer cases in the US, and I will be specifically focusing on US numbers throughout this presentation, given our focus moving forward and the importance of that market worldwide. As you can see from the presentation, breast cancer cases alone are 3.6 million. And the health spend on these very important cancers is quite significant in the US. Collectively, between the three, $160 billion worth of health spend. You can see that there's a significant number of procedures undertaken in this space. In the context of breast cancer, we have a significant addressable market of about 2.6 billion. The recurrence costs for repeat surgeries, which is a significant problem in breast cancer surgery, is estimated at 6.4 billion. And we believe that we can reduce the operating time and create significant efficiencies for hospitals to the tune of 150 million per annum in the US alone. In the GI space, we're both looking at the cancer space and also non-cancer diagnosed disease, such as inflammatory bowel disease. Again, in the US alone, there are 3.1 million US adults diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, and a significant proportion of endoscopy procedures undertaken for colonoscopies, with a significant healthcare spend in GI. Investors and shareholders in Optiscan would know that we've previously operated in the GI space, and we've recently made announcements of re-entering into that space with a second-generation flexible scope. And I'll talk a little bit about our progress with that in the coming slides. As important as these relevant markets are, however, we are only scratching the surface. This is the tip of the iceberg. What we believe is that Optiscan is primed for a pioneer and leadership position in the digital health space. We've been realigning our assets internally in relation to this. Our technology produces DICOM compatible and PACS-enabled images, allows us to stay connected through the cloud, with the significant power of computer analysis these days that allows us also significant inroads into AI. So the digital health market is anticipated to reach 946 billion by 2030. And within that particular sub-segmentation, we have digital health market in the US, which is estimated currently at $81 billion. We have a global AI healthcare market estimated at roughly 20 billion and expected to grow significantly at a rate of about 38.5% annually. Importantly, in relation to our recent announcement, the US robotic surgery market space is quite significant, valued currently at about 2 billion, in 2022 at 1.8, and estimated to grow annually at 17.3%. And we believe that the assets that we're putting together at Optiscan will allow us to tap into each of these very lucrative spaces, but also to make significant positive impact for patients as we move into the digital era. We've talked previously about our clinical product family vision, and there's significant progress made with our technology. And again, I'll highlight those in coming slides as to what investors and shareholders can anticipate from us as far as announcements and product launches over the next 2 quarters. But importantly, we've also highlighted several years ago now that we wish to develop this full suite of digital health assets. And I want to draw your attention to these 5 specific areas as we move through the presentation. The first one is intraoperative telepathology and allowing a cloud connection between surgery and pathology to occur to facilitate diagnoses, reduce time in operating theatres, and really just allow patients to get the answer they need on the spot. The second one is AI-based identification of disease and diagnostics. And of course, in the era of AI, we want to make sure that we're ready, able, and leading the charge in AI-based diagnostics in oncology, and we've made good progress with that. We also indicated our initiative to come back into the flexible GI space with our flexible endoscope. And we've made an announcement recently with CRC money from the federal government that we've initiated that project, which will take us another 2 to 3 years to develop, estimated to cost $10 million. Importantly, we had indicated that we wish to have our devices integrated with robotic systems. That was part of our strategy over the last couple of years. And today, of course, I'll highlight some of those steps forward in relation to the Mayo announcement. And last but definitely not least is moving into the future into image-guided molecular surgery with even more precision, more accuracy, and better results for patients. So what have we been doing? Well, I guess one way of looking at this is looking through the journey of Optiscan through a lens of transformation. And I've set it out here as 3 phases, past, present, and future. So our core technology is undisputed. We've spent a lot of time operating as an OEM for other manufacturers. And I've been reasonably forthright in stating that we wish to move into the future as a pure play medical device company under a private label. And that's what we're moving towards with our family of products and our other add-on services that we wish to bolt onto the hardware. So we've made very good progress with that. The technology is quite advanced. We've had a strategic refocus. We've optimized our operations in the Melbourne office. And of course, we've set up our operations in the US to enable both sales and marketing, business development, but also clinical and regulatory partnerships and collaborations. Moving forward, I want to focus your attention on our stage 3 strategic growth phase beyond 26, where we plan to start to bring these devices to market. So in the clinical device space, a device for breast surgery, the GI flexible device, a robotics device, which I'll discuss a little bit further, and again, a combination device for the vet market, which is a very lucrative market in itself. And importantly, we want to continue to make our stake in relation to this pure play digital company as we further transform Optiscan from really looking at R&D and hardware in the past to really looking at digital solutions and digital healthcare into the future. So what progress have we made to date? There's been significant amount of work undertaken over the last 2.5 years in operations, in product development, in technology development. Also, in relation to opening up additional sales and sales pipeline and commercial opportunities, specifically in the US. Enhancing our brand and changing the narrative around Optiscan and where it's heading into the future, but building, of course, on those very solid foundations of the past. And importantly, striking important partnerships, collaborations, and working relationships through agreements with reputable companies and other organizations around the world to facilitate our mission moving forward. And of course, we've just announced recently the agreement with Mayo. There are other agreements coming, which I hope to be able to announce in due course. And of course, significant reinitiation of agreements and partnerships with past collaborators. For example, our clinical partnership in Germany with Professor Kaislik, leader in the GI endoscopy space, and who's rejoined us in trying to move ahead with our second generation flexible endoscope. So it's very important to note that over the last 2 years, there's been a significant amount of activity. Some of that publicly stated, and of course, some of that work in progress, and we'll announce that over the coming 6 months. So how has that change and the various progress to date changed our portfolio, and what are we doing in this space? So in relation to the clinical product family vision that we set out, we've made significant progress with refreshing our oral imaging platform, the Envisage. And that's now ready to undergo further clinical studies for regulatory approval, and I'll touch on that further. We've made significant progress with our surgical device, and I'll be happy to share that progress with you over the coming months in relation to breast cancer surgery specifically, and we hope to launch and reveal that product soon. And again, in relation to the digital pathology space, we've made significant strides in moving that product development forward. And over the next 6 months, we'll also launch that product, and then that can undergo further clinical testing as we move towards regulatory approval. We've initiated the GI project that's in the very early stages. We're prototyping that currently. That project is quite significant in regards to the future of Optiscan. There'll be enhanced optics placed in that device, and a whole myriad of other new opportunities for a deeper imaging and wider spectrum imaging capability with that device, and that will assist us in moving forward with our third phase of device transformation. And as I alluded to earlier, the combination all-in-one vet product will take advantage of all of those changes in the previous lineup. Importantly, we're progressing with the telepathology project that's nearly complete. We anticipate that will be completed on schedule at the end of 2024, as anticipated and announced previously. The AI project is slightly delayed, but still making very good progress. But now that's proceeding in 3 areas, whereas previously we had indicated we were working on the oral imaging platform alone, and now we're proceeding with oral, breast, and GI AI applications in parallel. So a significant amount of work been undertaken in that space. And as I've highlighted, the work on the second generation flexible endoscope for GI markets has already commenced, and that will be a 2-year project, as we've previously discussed. So where does the robotic integration fit in, and how is this relevant to the Mayo announcement? So we released this announcement early in the week. as we signed the know-how agreement with the Mayo Clinic. And specifically, we're focused with this particular relationship on robotic integration, and specifically as a first case for use is in breast cancer surgery. Of course, there are significant other applications in robotics, and we want to make sure that we're tapping into that as that market increases in size and in opportunity. So really, moving forward over the next 2 years, we'll be working closely with our colleagues at the Mayo Clinic to design, prototype, and test a robotic system for integration into various robotic systems, and using our technology to allow more definitive imaging with robotic surgery. So you might ask, well, how will this improve the progress and the future perspective for Optiscan? I'll highlight a couple of points here in relation to the importance of this announcement. So needless to say that this agreement represents a significant milestone in our evolution. This has obviously been a work in progress for many, many months. And we believe that this will enhance and accelerate the development of this particular product. There are multiple robotic systems presently being used and clinical trials currently undertaken at the Mayo Clinic, and we obviously will be benefactors from that knowledge. Importantly, the Mayo Clinic is a very large integrated healthcare system with multiple different campuses and a whole myriad of opportunities in relation to robotic surgery. As we've indicated in our announcement, the Mayo Clinic will take a financial interest in our technology. And for their purposes, that will be put back into their not-for-profit mission of patient care, education, and research. And in relation to our collaboration together with them, that will be a significant driver for R&D internally as we further miniaturize our technology, and we, of course, create that capability for robotics to integrate with our technology. And the work has already started. So experts from our company in R&D, our engineers, and experts from the Mayo Clinic in relation to their robotic surgeons have already started planning the 2-year project, and we look forward to updating you on that moving forward. Obviously, there might be questions around why the Mayo Clinic in particular. Well, the Mayo Clinic is the largest integrated medical group practice in the world. They are second to none in relation to complex care, and they have experts working together in a unique team structure that allows them to solve challenging unmet needs for patients. Importantly, they undertake a significant number of surgical procedures, estimated in 2022 at 141,000 surgical cases, with 4,000 robotic-assisted surgeries per year. So a significant number where the throughput is important for assessing technology such as ours being integrated with robots moving forward. For those not in the know, the Mayo Clinic is also the birthplace of the modern frozen section procedure, and they run one of the largest pathology laboratories in the world. So that integration between surgery and pathology is very important for our technology. It's central to the way that the Mayo Clinic operates, and we believe there's significant alignment between the two companies. In 2022 alone, the Mayo Clinic undertook 1,500 open clinical trials, and we look forward to working with them on future clinical trials for our technology also. So the next question might be, why robotic surgery? The field of medicine is moving more and more from open surgery to laparoscopic and robotic assisted surgery. We want to ensure that Optiscan technology is central to the way that robotic surgeons and robotic assisted surgery is undertaken. But also importantly, it opens up areas for us that we've traditionally not actually been working in. Whether that's prostate cancer, lung cancer, kidney cancer, or pancreatic cancer, these are areas of the body where use of minimally invasive technology such as robotics benefits significantly, but also currently surgeons using robotic assisted surgery don't benefit from the ability to be able to decide whether the cancer has been removed completely. Integrating Optiscan's technology with robotics allows surgeons to be able to determine completeness of cancer removal. And for Optiscan, that opens up then a whole myriad of markets in oncology previously untapped. So with one robotic device, then we can basically tackle significant cancers with robotic assisted surgery. So we look basically forward to expanding the markets that we work in, expanding the types of cancers that our technology can benefit, and of course, expanding the number of surgeons and the types of surgery that they will use Optiscan technology for image enhanced microscopic assessment. So it's a significant market. We want to make sure that we're in that space. It's moving very, very quickly. There are estimated to be nearly 100 robotic companies now worldwide, from very small niche robotic operators to very large operators in the US. The uniqueness of the Optiscan technology is that it provides the highest resolution, which is, of course, very important for surgeons. It provides them the greatest accuracy, and this is important to note that the collaboration with the Mayo is a two-way relationship. They acknowledge the superiority of our approach and our technology. And of course, we acknowledge the power of their patient care system and the accuracy in which their surgeons and their pathologists operate. Put together, highest resolution with greatest accuracy provides a growing market. And essentially, to put it simply, we want to move away from being a handheld microscopic imaging system to a robotic operated microscopic imaging system. And we need to be prepared for that digital revolution moving forward, hence the importance of this announcement and this collaboration. So where are we in relation to the product lifecycle currently? This is what Optiscan is working on currently. In relation to our oral imaging technology, we're at the clinical phase and working with the FDA on further refinements to our regulatory submission. I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. We're moving ahead at a very high rate with our breast device for open cancer surgery. We'll be initiating in-human studies at the Royal Melbourne later in the year, and we'll keep you abreast of that. And importantly, as I've indicated earlier, we're moving ahead with the launch of our digital pathology platform, and we're currently undertaking the final little bit of work on that, and we hope to then translate that into a clinical study again at the Royal Melbourne later in the year. With our telepathology partner in ProLucid, that progress is quite advanced. We're still in the preclinical stage, but once the devices are launched, we can then move into the clinical stage. So that will be for early 2025 and then moving forward. The flexible GI second generation device is still in prototype phase, but our partnership with Professor Kieslich in Germany will progress that over the next couple of years. And of course, we have collaborations elsewhere here in Australia to move that product forward. We're in talks with the University of Minnesota College of Veterinary Medicine for assessment of prototyping of our vet device, and that's progressing well, and I hope to be able to make significant announcements around that in the future. And as I've indicated, our AI applications are moving now in 3 streams for oral, breast, and GI concurrently. And you would have noticed that we've recently signed a collaboration with the CSIRO locally in Australia to move ahead with AI for that GI product. Of course, in relation to the announcement made this week, we're already in the early stages of prototyping for the robotic integrated system. That project will be a 2-year project with the Mayo Clinic. And we look forward to updating you on that as we move forward. Specifically in relation to the clinical and regulatory pathways, we're not shying away from some of the disappointment that we've had along the way with the oral imaging platform with our previous submission to the FDA. And I want to take this opportunity to be able to also highlight some of the more granular detail around that. For those not aware, there's been some significant US legislation changes in relation to the use and application of contrast agents in the US. That occurred late in 2022, came into effect in 2023. And we've been in discussions with the FDA trying to resolve some of the intended pathway progression for us in relation to use of topical fluorescein, which now is considered a drug. Prior to 2023, that was considered a device, and the pathway for devices with the FDA is significantly different to that of drugs. We continue to work with the FDA in relation to this to explore new pathways and alternate pathways to move ahead with our product range. And the FDA have been very helpful in relation to that. They've offered us some additional time to explore additional partnerships to accelerate our success. They are keen to make sure that this product gets to market, and they see the benefit as they've seen the benefit previously in past devices. Importantly, as a strategic recalibration for us at Optiscan, we'll move ahead now with these 4 product offerings under the same strategic focus. So we will have a significant focus on incorporating the FDA feedback for the oral imaging platform into a surgical narrative. Of course, there will be further clinical studies that will be required, and we anticipate that they'll be undertaken in the US with US collaborators and partners. Importantly, however, the progress will be run in parallel. So the same strategy will be applied to breast surgery and also to GI surgery with the devices as we move forward. And importantly, that same strategy is being applied to the robotics agreement with the Mayo, specifically in relation to cancer surgery in breast. So importantly, although there has been a little bit of a setback in relation to the FDA clearance for the oral device, we'll now progress that moving forward in parallel with these others. That will create significant efficiencies for us as we move through the clinical and regulatory steps. And again, you would have noticed recently we've appointed 2 senior executives in the US in both the clinical affairs and regulatory affairs space, both positioned in Minnesota to allow us to move forward with those clinical projects. Importantly, we haven't lost focus on expanding our footprint elsewhere. There's been a lot of work undertaken in relation to business development for our preclinical device, the View in Vivo, and that's progressing very well. We look forward to making further announcements later in the year in relation to that growing pipeline. There's a significant amount of engagement with our two business development managers in the US. And we look forward to sharing that expanding sales pipeline with our shareholders in the near future. Importantly, we've re-signed with our distributor in China, and we've expanded our relationship with them. Again, that pipeline is increasing, and we look forward to them also enhancing their offering across mainland China. We continue to operate our manufacturing and our global headquarters, of course, from Melbourne. And now we have our regional office situated in Rochester, focused specifically on the clinical and regulatory work required. In relation to our financial position, currently, we have no debt. We're using equity and non-dilutive grants, such as the CRCP recently announced to fund our operations. That is really tied up with the recent capital raise last year that we undertook, and those funds have been applied to expanding our R&D offerings, as indicated. And we're quite optimistic about our strategy, our path forward, specifically in relation to 2026 plus. And we are projecting revenue into the future. Of course, many variables along the way, but we believe that we're on the right path to achieve that. Of course, there's still a lot of work required to get to that stage, but we have the technology, we have the partnerships, we have the business practices and operations enhanced for efficiency. We're in the mix and in the midst of a very growing space in relation to digital healthcare, in relation to robotics. And we believe that we've undertaken a significant portion of that transformation, moving the company from an OEM into a pure play private label. We look forward to further updates in the future, and we thank you for your support ongoing and in the future. Thank you very much. If you would like to be in contact with us, please don't hesitate to email myself or Russell, and please make sure that you stay in touch on our socials, but also look at our website for further updates as we share them broadly. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and your support of Optiscan. Thank you. Over to you, Russell.
Thank you, Camille. I hope everybody can see that we have quite a bright future ahead of us. And I also see that we have quite a bit of interest in that future because we have quite a few questions. Please continue to post your questions in the Q&A section below. And with that said, the first question that we received via email before the webinar was specifically asking about when investors could expect dividends to be paid out.
Well, that's a very interesting question. So as you saw, I highlighted potential revenue in 5 years, positive in 5 years. I would expect that dividends will be forthcoming after that. There's still, as I said, a lot of work to be done, but we're optimistic and positive about our path moving forward, and we look forward to that shareholder and others staying with us for the journey to achieve their dividends.
So there was a question requesting some additional information about the investment the Mayo Clinic will be making in Optiscan and if it has been formalized in the agreement.
So this, thank you for the question. This agreement with the Mayo Clinic is a know-how agreement. For those not aware what a know-how agreement is, that's really setting the stage for the interplay of knowledge transfer, of rights, of IP. Obviously, the specifics of the agreement are confidential, but what I can share with you in relation to Optiscan specifically is that that agreement sets the path for Optiscan to determine its own future moving forward in relation to any know-how gained from the Mayo Clinic in relation to the robotic system. At the end of the day, this is Optiscan technology, and the Mayo Clinic supports and understands that. And so this agreement really sets the framework, if you will, around how the relationship will unfold, what the potential for maybe future engagements or relationships might be, but also how we'll work through that development plan over the next 2 years. There may be additional or other agreements that will flow from that in due course, and of course, if there are any, we will share that publicly.
Thank you. There was a question around dental as a focus of the company and the shift away from that. Can you just provide a little bit of insight there and
Sure.
Provide a bit of an update on that topic?
Yes, obviously, there has been a focus in the past on the dental device, the Invivage. I wouldn't say that we're shifting our focus away from that. I think the way of looking at that would be that we're pivoting the application for that device. The device will still progress. The device will still move forward with a regulatory submission to the FDA. We're not moving away from that. I think the focus is more in line with the feedback from the FDA and the changing legislation in the US Congress in relation to contrast dyes. The dental specific application as a in-office use scenario is really the issue that needs to be shifted, and really for simple reasons that it is more complex, according to the FDA, to achieve regulatory clearance in that particular space versus a surgical space. And that really comes down to issues of pre-approved product use, for example, for the drug, versus some of the changes that Optiscan was looking at making in relation to the route of administration of the drug, the dosage or concentration of the drug, and the intended use of the drug. So really all we're trying to do is make sure that we align with the feedback from the FDA and try to find the most accelerated path forward to FDA clearance for that oral product. And we specifically talk about it as an oral product because the intended applications extend beyond dental. So again, we're not moving away from that. We're just pivoting the application of that device. We believe that the market for that device in the surgical space is potentially equal, if not slightly larger than the predetermined dental space anyway. But as we progress importantly with the surgical applications with oral, we will then be in a better position to come back and work on various other dental applications, having secured some earlier FDA clearances. Thank you.
On the topic of FDA clearances, we had another related question, which was asking for some clarification around any additional clinical work that might be required in the States to enable FDA approval. Has the FDA spoken to you about any additional clinical work?
Yes, so as I've highlighted in my presentation, we do anticipate that there will be further clinical work required for the oral application. And specifically, we intend to do that in the US. That will accelerate the FDA's approval of our data. So we have all intention to run those clinical studies in the US. It does not mean that we won't undertake feasibility or pilot studies elsewhere, but for FDA clearance, clinical studies in the US will be very important. And of course, we're taking their feedback in relation to the design of such studies to, again, show the clinical data in the fastest way possible to achieve that regulatory clearance. Thank you.
On the topic of timelines. We have a question about the cash runway, and specifically related to the pipeline of work, because we have a lot of exciting projects in the works at the moment. I mean, you had that whole slide where it showed the different stages. So can you provide a little bit of context about our current cash position?
Yes, thank you. Importantly, what we're trying to do, and I'm trying to be very specific in relation to running projects in parallel. The benefit of running projects in parallel is that it is a more efficient way of consuming cash. So although there are multiple projects running that may seem like a significant cash drain, the significant number of those are already complete or near complete as far as the hardware. So as I said, we'll make announcements around our surgical device and our pathology device within the next 2 quarters. So we can already sort of bring those as far as R&D to an end, and you'll see then there will be no further cash expenditure on those projects from a hardware point of view. The capital raise from last year was specifically geared towards GI as a very large component, and a significant allocation of the budget has been put towards the GI flexible device. But also we've been supported by the federal government with a $3 million grant to assist that GI project. So that's taken the pressure off the use of our raised funds from last year in relation to that particular project. Importantly, for the robotic tie-up in relation to the Mayo Clinic, again, that cash drain is minimal on our end in relation to new resources. The resources we already have as far as engineers, R&D and hardware already within the Melbourne headquarters. So there won't be too much of a cash drain on that. Obviously, there's prototyping, but most of the work is really preclinical and clinical testing at the Mayo, and that's a significant Mayo contribution to our collaboration, and why it was very important to structure it that way. As I said earlier, the telepathology is mostly finished. That will be completed by the end of this year. So most of that cash drain has already occurred. And the AI projects will continue as required. Those projects are really planned to be add-on software revenue streams for us after the devices have been launched. So we're really taking a very early stance on development, but the cash drain on those will be not that significant. You'll probably see some more of that maybe in 26, 27, 28 after some of these devices have been launched onto the market. So at this stage, what I can say in summary is we're in a great position as far as our cash runway for the next couple of years. Obviously, we'll continue to look for non-dilutive funding to support our position. And of course, we will look to having additional revenue streams come from our preclinical device sales pipeline that will support our future R&D as required and our clinical projects as required. We, of course, look forward to further orders of devices from Carl Zeiss for their neurosurgery device, and as they pick up their momentum in that particular space. Thank you.
Fantastic. It sounds like there's a lot of non-dilutive options, and we've already managed to grab some of them as well. So that's great to hear. Is there any clarity you can provide on the timeline? I know we did go over it in the presentation a little bit, but we do have a few questions about when the first FDA approval might come through. Is there any additional clarity you can provide there?
Yeah, the clarity would be that I don't dictate when approvals come through. The FDA dictates when approvals come through. What we are working tirelessly on behalf of our shareholders is to make sure that we can get FDA submissions in, and we will continue to attempt to do those in the earliest time possible. Without committing us to exact timelines, what I can say in relation to the slide for the multiple clinical and regulatory paths that we're pursuing, and in relation to the 2026 plus timeline that we're looking forward to, that probably would provide the estimated timeline in relation to not just the oral submission, but we also anticipate potentially a breast cancer submission running along the same path, along an estimated timeline for 2026 plus. I do acknowledge that that has been a delay from what was promised previously. Obviously, I wasn't party to that, but we're working together as a team currently with the board, with our engineers, with our partners, with our collaborators to make sure that we move that forward. Importantly, the relationship with the Mayo Clinic will allow us to accelerate that, but also the good relationship we have with the FDA. And they've been, as I said, quite supportive, and they're assisting in navigating their own guidelines and policies. We're putting that to good use. We are trying to strike other partnerships and agreements to further accelerate that development, because a significant amount of that is in relation to the drug itself, not the device. But an estimate would be that we're looking at 2026 plus.
Fantastic. Thank you for that clarification. The last question we have is a bit more on the contrast discussion that you mentioned a little bit during the presentation, specifically about the status of identifying a suitable contrast agent. And is there something more strategic that will identify the most suitable contrast agent for oral imaging in practice?
Yeah, so there are multiple contrast agent options, but there are very limited FDA-approved contrast agent options. So we will continue to work with the FDA on their approved contrast agent options. For us currently, with our various platforms, fluorescein remains the most viable FDA-approved contrast agent option for us. We acknowledge that, the FDA acknowledges that. We will continue to work in that space. I think the main point of difference there to highlight to the shareholder is it's not necessarily about changing contrast agents. It's about changing the way we use the contrast agent. So that's the thing that we're in the final stages of resolving with the FDA. And we anticipate that we will take a more surgical approach with that versus what was anticipated in the past at this stage with a topical approach. There are other FDA-regulated contrast agents on the market. They are not compatible with our current technology. That may change in the future as we continue to evolve our technology. That requires a significant amount of R&D. You might see some of those in the next 2 to 3 years as we develop our GI device. But currently, we're still tied with the FDA to the use of fluorescein. Thank you.
So that was the last question we have. Thank you, everybody, for joining. As you can see, we have quite an interesting pipeline, and we are excited to continue to announce things over the next rest of this calendar year. I mean, I think it's quite a, as an investor, you have a better idea of our timelines now. And I think that you understand that we really are on top of quite a number of promising technologies within our pipeline that, as Camille said, we're developing with a less use of funds than we were if we were developing them all uniquely because of how the timeline is working. So stick around. It's going to be an exciting ride. Thank you for everybody joining. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Camille, and we'd be happy to organize a meeting or answer those questions via email. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Russell. Thanks, everyone.